Hey guys, what's going on? Delta Gaming back with some more God of War 1. Now, last episode we finished Dionysus. And we're going to move on to the next topic. And I just realized that, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get all my lectures done in this game because we're pretty much almost at the end of the game. But I will continue it when I move on to God of War 2. But, like I said, we just finished up Dionysus in the last episode, so now we're going to move on to Artemis and Apollo. So, starting with Artemis, also known as Diana in Roman mythology, her parents were Zeus and the goddess Leto. She's had no kids. Most of her, like the attributes that you would see with her in paintings and on vases, or whatever, would be bows, quivers, wild animals. A lot of the times you'd see deer for her. Some of the significant cult titles would be Lokia, she was a protector of women in labor. Potnia Theron, which is the mistress of animals, basically kind of like she can talk to animals, in that kind of a sense, as well as Agroterra, which is of the wilds. Some of the significant rituals, sanctuaries that were associated with her. First one would be the Ephesus, which is it's the capital of the Roman Empire on the coast of Anatolia, where the Ephesian Artemis was a patron goddess, basically. So it's basically like the goddess of the city. Like that's where you go to pay homage, maybe sacrifices, whatever. You go there to do it. Then there was the Brauronia, which is an initiation ritual of young girls before marriage. Took place in Brauron, which is a region to the east of Athens. And the last one is the Sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, which was the location of the initiation for adolescent boys near Sparta. So it wasn't just, even though yes, she was a female goddess, or female goddess, whichever, and she did a lot of things for women, she also had rituals and sanctuaries for young men. So, the birth of Artemis begins where most do, with Zeus. And Zeus was kind of like, you know what? Hera ain't putting out. And I'm horny. Hey, check it out. There's this really hot chick named Leto. She's really hot. And I'm in love with her. So, he's he's just madly in love with her, but at the same time, he's just kind of like, I want to do this, on the DL, to the point where, he gets in wham bam thinky ma'am, and she doesn't even know. She's just like, I'm pregnant. Don't know how, but I'm pregnant. And, of course, Hera finds out about this, gets super pissed, again, not at Zeus, but at Leto, and sends her out on the run. And it's like, you know what? No city in Greece, no city anywhere will take you in. And just to make sure that you don't just kind of that someone takes you in and just kind of, shelters you, and so that you're constantly on the run, I'm going to send this giant beast known as a python to chase you until you die. Have fun, bye-bye. So, you know, she runs and runs and runs from this python. No one wants to take her in because they know, once you know, word spreads that, hey, Leto, Zeus knocked her up, Hera's after her, and she's being chased by this giant python. We don't know, like, if this python's going to kill the city, destroy the city, or just kill her, anybody in its way. We don't know. We don't care. She's not staying here. Well, eventually she makes her way to the island of Delos, and they take her in. And during that time, she gives birth to Artemis first. And Artemis gives birth, or helps, I should say, helps give birth to the second baby, Apollo. So it's kind of like, even though, yeah, she was just born, she was already kind of born a god, so she kind of had, you know, the godly powers and the godly insight and, you know, knowledge of, I know how to do this. So she's already earned that title of, I can protect women in labor. That is one of my goals. That is one of my deeds. And that's kind of how a lot of this, how that came about. So now, Apollo, he is the god of wisdom, healing, the sun, as well as music. And that's what, you know, we're going to see, I believe we see Apollo in God of War 2. So we will see him much, much later. Okay. Now, with Artemis, there's the Homeric epithets, where you have Artemis Potnia Theron, or the Mistress of the Wild, or Mistress of Animals, as well as Artemis Agroterra, which is of the wilds. So these animals are basically, like, when it means like wild, it's all, you know, wild animals, you know, they're not domesticated, it's not a pet. And the bow, for her, it's not a symbol of like warfare, but more of hunting. Like, that's what you would see with someone who's going on a hunt and now going to war. Now, she was also a protector of virginity. Now we have, like, Hestia was the goddess of the hearth and integrity of the family. Athena was the goddess of city and away from the sphere of, like, women, away from that, more of the goddess of the city. And then you have Artemis, which is the goddess of nature, nymphs, the life, and the basically like life cycle of young women. Now, there are some, like, different parts of nature, like rivers, the seas, woodlands, and other minor divinities that are within there that kind of flock to and kind of almost like she gets groupies in a sense. That she, at one point in time, Artemis gets her own kind of, like, in a sense, a gang of 80 nymphs that just kind of, like, hang out. They do what she asks. They just protect when she's away. They're kind of her, she's a gang leader and that's her gang kind of thing. Not in the negative sense, but that's kind of how you can look at it. Now, when it comes to Artemis, they mostly correspond to, like, young girls in the aspect of everyday Greek life. And basically Artemis's job for young girls as well as or the nymphs is basically, it's like, no boys, no hanky-panky, not until it's time. So no premarital sex, no experimentation, you must be pure. Which, that even continued for a good while, where you saw the, what was it? I'm trying to remember what part of it, but it's if you ever seen like the History of the World Part 1, where it's like there's the virgin cult kind of deal. Basically something similar to that, where that was basically like Artemis's job was to kind of like, no touching of men, no. So that's kind of basically how that came. That was basically one of her main titles, main jobs. Now, with Artemis, Zeus falls in love with one of Artemis's nymphs named Callisto. And, Zeus and Callisto, they go on a date, and they go on another date, and then they go on another date, and he's like, he's just wooing her. He's just like, hey, here's a flower. How about our second date? We go and overlook the beach. He's just really, really, really nice about it. And, he makes him seem kind of like a really good guy. Like, man, I'm going to marry this man. I'm just kidding. What he does is he turns himself into Artemis. It's not a bird. It's not any, a ghost or whatever. He turns himself into Artemis. And he's kind of like, hey, baby, it's me, Artemis. Want to make out? And she's like, oh my god, yes. And they do. And the real Artemis gets angry at Callisto for, not being a virgin anymore. And, it's kind of, I don't know. Like today when you have the Me Too movement where you don't blame the victim, that wasn't the case back in Greek mythology. It was always like, I don't give a shit about Zeus. Whoever he wants to screw, it's the victim's fault. Not Zeus, the victim. So if the Me Too movement existed back then, probably a lot of these guys wouldn't have been born. Just saying. Now, Artemis gets so angry that she's like, Alakazam, poof, you're now a bear. And now she's permanently a bear. And then it's like, okay, you're now a bear. You've got 1 minute head start, because as soon as that minute is up, I'm gonna hunt you and I'm gonna kill you. So Zeus sees this whole thing going down, and he's like, damn it. Can I not just like have a little side action with it not going completely sideways? Like, seriously, WTF. He ends up taking pity on Callisto. I mean, granted, it was his fault. And instead, he decides, you know what? Here's my gift to you. You are now the constellation that we know as Ursa Major, or Great Bear. And if you know anything about the stars, part of the Big Dipper is part of Ursa Major, which, to be honest with you, I didn't know that. I just knew, there's the Big Dipper, and that was it. I thought Ursa Major was somewhere else. Kind of deal. That's just another slide of the stars. Okay. Now, we're going to go to Artemis and Actaeon. This is Actaeon, so I'm probably butchering it, but just kind of bear with me. Now, one day, Actaeon is wandering through the forest, and she's just this, shit-hot hunter. It's one of those like, hey, it's like that cousin Rico, it's like, I bet I can throw that football over the mountains. It's like, I bet you I can nail that bird between the eyes from 100 yards. Pew! Got it. See? What did I say? I'm a badass hunter. Now, what happens is he ends up, stumbling across Artemis, and they're all kind of like, they're just bathing. They're just, normal day for them. They're not doing anything. They're just kind of we're having a splish splash, taking a bath in the local river or lake, and he's just sitting there like, oh, these are some hot nude chicks. So, and Artemis is not exactly happy about it, even though Actaeon, like, he wasn't like kind of, hey, let me spy on this, little peeping Tom action. He just stumbled on it. Like, he's like, oh, these are hot, but oh, sorry, did not mean to. And instead, she's like, Artemis is like, I don't care. You ain't supposed to see this. You ain't even supposed to be near us. So, Alakazam, poof, you're now a deer, stag. And so basically, Artemis kind of has a bit of a temper with her. And now after she turns Actaeon into the stag, she's like, alright, start running, boy. Start running. And she's like, okay, 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1, dogs, go. And she sends her dogs after the stag. They chase it down, and they end up eating and devouring the stag. So yeah, she's not exactly someone you want to cross, let alone be within, like, viewing distance of. Because you could be like, hey, I'm going to prove on these chicks, or, oh my god, I just stumbled into the wrong area. Tough. See ya. So, we're going to go with Artemis and Orion now. Now, there are 2 versions of this. We're going to go with version 1. Now, version 1 starts off with Artemis falling in love once and only once with a mortal man named Orion. And Artemis's twin brother, Apollo, knows that no. Gods and mortals? No. You must fall in love and marry and get it on with a god. With a god, sorry. Or it could also be seen as more of Apollo's like, hey, my sister's hot, I want to tap that. Kind of a Jaime Lannister, Game of Thrones kind of thing. It's kind of not really known if it's more of he's got the hots for his sister, or if he wants her to, nope, don't even let him, a mortal man see you naked, kind of thing. Don't even get close to a mortal human. So, one day, Orion's out just swimming in the ocean, just getting his cardio in, just, I'm getting my daily regimen in, I gotta train or do whatever, just out swimming. And Apollo looks to Artemis and goes, hey, you see that dot way out there, the little moving thing out there? You see that? It's kind of, I don't know what it is, but it's like out there moving out in the water. I bet you $100 you can't hit it. And she's like, really? Do you know how badass of a hunter I am? Watch this. Pew! And boop, right into his head. Kills him. And when she sees this and notices that it wasn't just some floating object, it was a human, the guy that she had fallen in love with, she's like, oh my god, what have I done? Here, let me help it. Let me make this up to you. And she lifts him up into the sky and turns him into the constellation of Orion. That way, he'll always be around. That way, if she's ever feeling lonely, I can look up and there he is. There's the one love that I kind of killed. My bad. Now, I believe that I will stop here because I'm going to start version 2 in the next episode. So we're just going to wrap this part up here. deplete all my souls or whatever into... I doubt, highly doubt I'll be able to get the trophy for getting all my stuff maxed out, because we're pretty much at the end of the game. I have to come through on a different playthrough, maybe on easy mode or whatever. So, that is going to end this episode for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying this, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell notification, and I will see you in the next video.